So Rozzi hasn't had much change in a while, but some of the tools that she uses has. Recently, Boa has had an ammo increase. Rozzi likes this gun as much as she likes Electron Blaster, but the ammo kinda felt like an issue for her in the past. Boa has also been buffed a lot in the previous few patches, and it's starting to feel really good on her. What's poppin' everyone, it's your boy Levi, and this is an updated guide to my previous Rozzi guide. Her build path shortly changed after I put out that video, so I wanted to make an updated guide on her current builds. Builds, yes, plural. There's two of them in this video, but they both are played more or less the same. Also, currently, at the time of recording this, I'm the ranked #1 Rozzi main in NA at the moment. Video on how that happened coming soon, so subscribe for that. Here are the builds. They're both 5 zones, with the only difference being one's more heavy on lifesteal and goes beach, and the other is crit and CDR and goes alley. Personally, I'm more of a fan of the Butler's lifesteal build, but both work, and I alternate depending on what's contested. These are the augments I run. If you need help getting through the early game and you're running the Crusader helmet, you can take Embolden instead of Steadfast, but that's the only difference. We're still maxing passive, then QWE, but I'm getting a sneaky suspicion that WMAX might make its return soon. We'll do some testing. As always, the first thing you want to do regardless of character or build is check where people are spawning during plan selection. I cannot stress this enough. You want to spawn in the more crowded zone between Hotel and Avenue. Most of the time it's going to be Avenue. As you load into game, you want to check where people in your zone are spawning. If you don't get the bottom spawn of Avenue, or right above the teleporter, and they are open, you want to run to them. If not, just get your items in your cluster and try to move as fast as you can. Regardless of your build, you're going to want to get an extra pen and oil, and you can make honey milk for an SP drink. Or even better, if you roll a chocolate, you can combine it with milk for chocolate milk. Grab a leather for your gun off the chicken in front of the teleporter before you TP out. If you're playing the Butler's Lifesteal build, you're going to TP to beach. To keep this video from being too confusing, in the top right corner you'll see an icon to see which build I'm talking about at which time. Depending on what order you find the items, you're going to have to do a little bit of item juggling. You can kind of fix your inventory by getting sticks for tiara. I would try to get everything, but I wouldn't worry about finding a gun, piano wire, or carbonated water if you can't. You can get those in Hotel, but try to avoid people until you do get them. If you get the low spawn in beach, run to up down and TP in. If you ran in from the top like me, grab the rocks next to the entrance if you have the inventory space. In Hotel, we're going to go through 2 loot distributions just because it's usually looted. If the chickens are up as you enter, perfect. That's your leather, and if you're lucky, you'll get double meat for burgers. In my case, they were both taken, so don't worry. You want to check this left side of the fountain, and you'll need an extra gun to combine with your oil, so keep that in mind. Because you got the chicken in alley, you should have the leather for your weapon, so kill the dog for another leather. If you roll a lighter on the dog, you can make boiling water. If you didn't have the space for rocks, now's the time to get them. Then you want to path up the pool side for any items that you missed. This is like 99% of the time unlooted, the only 1% being if someone spawned here at the start of the game. Good thing you checked that, right? Kill the wolves for XP. This will give you the remaining leather and meat for burgers. It is important to note, do not drop your extra steel. You need it for Boa. Also, if you chugged through your honey milk or didn't make any SP drinks, you can make highball with carbonated water and whiskey. If you're playing the Crusader's helmet build, you're going to TP in the alley at this point. Depending on where you spawn, you want to path upwards toward the teleporter. When you checked at the beginning where people spawned, if there was a lot of people topside alley, you can path down to temple, but up is definitely preferred. You'll be too fast pathing down towards temple and you'll have to waste time waiting for the wolves to spawn. Get your items and try to grab a lighter for boiled water. Use the wolves for meat to make burgers and that's really it. Nothing too special for this though. In Pond, this is where both builds come online. Most of the time you want to path getting your items towards the pond bears. The only exception would be if there's a meteor falling in Pond and you're playing the Butler's build. You can contest that meteor for Pegasus. Try to be here right as bears spawn. I get them 99% of the time. You do have to be careful of a few characters in Pond. You'll run into Aiden, which is a winnable fight. Just note that most of the time you'll be down half an item. Camilla, who is also most of the time winnable if you're very evenly matched, and Felix, who has to perfectly time his E to win the fight. It's Felix favored, but he has more to do to win the fight, so I usually take it. There isn't any extra items to grab in Pond, but I like to grab a box and either make a gemstone or grab it off the bears or wolves prior. You can make sheath and mag if the bears drop sheet metal. You can also make Schrodinger's box if they drop poison. This is just for crafting XP and not entirely necessary. I'd also grab one of the leathers off the bears. After bears and /or meteorite, you want to path into temple. Feather completes your build and whatever items you may have missed along the way. Also, take the hunts that are here. Temple is a great final zone for Rozzi because she can prep 2 of her 3 main transitions here. Use the leather on a shirt to make armor. This will be for mithril armor. Combine a feather with a hairband for a mask. This will be for opera mask. Find paper and combine it with your pen for blueprint. And then combine the blueprint with the oil gun and the steel for boa. Hold on to your Electron Blaster. We're going to transition back to it at some point. At this point, your inventory should be some combo of food and SP, boiling water, mask, armor, and Electron Blaster. If you had to drink your water for whatever reason, you can refill it in temple now, which is nice. From this point forward, all the information applies for both builds. Welcome to the mid game. I find that the mid game is the most challenging part for players. You need to balance your mastery while also preparing for late game. Thankfully, Rozzi got most of her transitions en route, and so you can prioritize food and hunting. I like to TP in the factory next. If you didn't get the lighter earlier, you can grab it now for boiling water. My food of choice is stir-fried ramen. It's pretty good and it can be one zoned here in factory. If you don't find oil, that's okay. We're going to Uptown next. If you look at my inventory, you can see that I have some boots. I found those off a dead body in temple. You basically want to always be on the lookout for craftable items. With the boots, I combine them with the leather for combat boots and use the nail in factory to make white rhinos. That's free crafting XP. Kill the wolves here if they're available. I find that most of the time if they are available, they'll be level 3, but sometimes you may get lucky. If the wolves drop an oilcloth and you somehow somewhere found steel, you can use it for EOD boots. After Uptown, you can head into hospital to grab the knee pads. Again, this is just for crafting XP, so don't worry if you don't have the stuff. The only important thing you need to grab besides food is an iron ball. TP to Uptown. Realistically, these bears should never be alive at this point. But if they are, that's just more hunt XP. I got into a fight with a Teo off spawn. You're here to make hot chocolate with Healy. If Alpha is spawning here, you can contest it if you're not behind. Make sure to check any blue chests for mithrils and meteorite. I get a meteorite out of mine, so this might be a good time to talk about transitions. For mithril, myth armor is your first upgrade. Depending on the lobby, if you need range, then go myth quiver, and if you need defense, go myth shield. For some reason, if you do find a 4th mithril, go mithril water, and DM me so I can flame you for your good RNG. For the Butler's build, your first meteorite goes to Pegasus. Your second can go to making Moonlight Pendant. If you're doing the Crusader's builds, just go straight to Moonlight Pendant. And if you find a third for whatever reason, either hold on to it for a foursquare, make Tears of Selene, or if you find a quiver, make the Sultan quiver for the gold XP crafting. Since we're in Uptown and we're going to Pond next, this gives you 2 places to find a bow for Moonlight Pendant. If you have some time before we go to Pond, you can go to Hospital for your tights and knee pads on your EOD path. If you miss some prep from Temple and Temple is closed, you can go to Cemetery to finish it. If neither are applicable to you, go to Pond and grab Console Vision before you get your respawning bears. If Pond is now closed, try to find another bear zone. Stay in Uptown if the bears are respawning soon. If not, go alley or dock. I try to avoid open areas like beach where you can get poked down for free. At Pond Bears, I like to ward behind me if hospital is still open so no one sneaks up from doing tree to bears. It'll most of the time delay people taking tree too. They'll think that there's someone there to contest them. We don't really care for tree, but you can take it if it's free. If the zone is closed, it's safer. If you have that extra meteorite, you can make a foursquare here too. If not, head up to Temple for your respawning bears. At this point, if you've been farming and crafting everything that you can be, you should be decent mastery. If there's a meteor falling in Temple, you can also contest it, but I only would if you have a tree for foursquare or haven't had one up to this point. After Temple hunts, our next destination is Omega. You should be pretty strong, and I would contest it unless you're behind, contesting meteor for foursquare, or a bad matchup is also contesting it. With this foursquare, you're making Hermes. If you have a Mist Shield or a Plasma Arc in your arm slot, I would make Celt if this is your second foursquare. If you picked up a Radar somewhere and replaced your Plasma Arc, then I would make Emerald Tablet with it. It will depend on what zones are open, obviously. This is also the time that you're going to switch back to Electron Blaster typically. You want to be around 14 weapon mastery, and I usually find that I get there around Omega. Also, if you're wondering when Radar is better than Plasma Arc, here are some unofficial numbers for some tests I ran in Practice Tool. Basically, all you need to know is that there isn't much difference most of the time. If you have 3 crit items, Radar does more. If not, Plasma does more. So you got your transitions now, hopefully. Our next stop is Wick. Now I watch a lot of KR Rozzis, and they pretty much get Wick 90% of the time. It's usually completely uncontested or contested by the entire lobby. No in between. It's a little bit different in NA. When they do Wick, it looks something like this. If Avenue is open, run up the ramp, and regardless of if Cemetery and Chapel are open, you're gonna always pull it that way. Make sure you have 3 inventory slots open for the item. This only works is if you have full or close to full timer. I wouldn't try this if you're still on a base build because I don't think you'll do enough damage quick enough. It's a little over 30 seconds with transitions to pull Wick to the corner, collect the items, and run to the Chapel TP. Chapel was open for me, but if it's not, don't worry, you can still make it to the TP. If you reset Wick by accident or miss any of your abilities when she does that teleport jump thing, I would try to run back through Avenue ramp, but you're likely to have someone waiting for you. With the blood, you pretty much want to always make Opera Mask. Don't worry about dropping a transition for it, it's your best in slot. Unless you didn't get Hermes and have a Halo, I would go Opera Mask with the Blood. If that's the case, or you do find a second Blood, you can go Red Shoes. If for whatever reason you need more heal cut than your W, you can go Gunbuy, but it's super situational. I would avoid Burgundy unless it's the only thing you can make because of zone closures, but even then, Queen of Hearts is still better than Burgundy. Your med kit is for munching. Taproots aren't great unless you're on Bucephalus still, then I'd consider upgrading. If you got Meteor or Mithril from Wick, refer to the previous options. Tree is probably the most useless thing that Wick can drop for you, and I did get one here unfortunately. Generally, I like to make Zen Vitality with it if I can, but most of the time it's just going to sit in your inventory. That's basically your entire mid game. Hunt rotation, transitions, Wick. All that's left is to kill the rest of the lobby. You're probably the strongest thing in the lobby at this point, so go around doing your final hunts, getting cameras, and looting the gold chests. I didn't get anything good, but I wanted to grab this blue chest in the odd chance that it was a mithril. Funny enough, it was. And it was entirely unneeded at this point, but I figured I'd show Rozzi's full transition state. I had a 1v1 with Nathapon who was pretty fed, but unfortunately for him, so was I. I get my W cancelled by his root thing because I was blinded, but the fight still goes my way pretty convincingly. Wick is a pretty big win condition for you. If you're not a player who normally contests objectives in rank, I definitely recommend at least trying to contest Omega and Wick in your normal games, even if you end up dying the first couple times for it. It's better to learn how to do it and fail than keep avoiding it. Rozzi currently isn't in a state where you can just rat around and play for placement. If you're not getting mastery and not getting transitions, you'll probably just get one shot or struggle to kill people. Try to play around vision too. Most matchups, even your counters, are winnable if you jump on someone. I would still try to avoid Hedgen, Adela, and Emma like the plague will. And don't be afraid to hard commit to fights. A lot of your fights are going to be super close, and you'll live on under a quarter health. Remember that good practice is better than more practice. Practicing good habits in 3 games a day is way better than playing 10 games a day doing the wrong things. That's going to be it for this video. This is a pretty in-depth Rozzi guide which I think covers most of how to play her in her current state. If you like the video, leave a like, and let me know down below how you feel about Rozzi in her current state. Subscribe for more videos similar to this one, and I'll see you in the next one.